Hi guys, welcome back. Today, let's talk a little bit about the learning matrix of this reality and how it applies both to the whole realm, how we see it, how we perceive it, but also to the fractal that we know of as AI. Okay, so they both seem to be employing the same tactics or code or learning paradigm, learning matrix, and the matter that seems to, you know, kind of like we've talked before and how Nathaniel Gilson was talked about, it it tests our beliefs. So we develop certain beliefs from, an unknown source, let's say. Uh, Hypothetically, they're given to us from the beginning, programmed into us, and then they're constantly tested, right? So let's say we are born into a certain belief system, like Christianity, with certain parents that have certain traditional values. Those are the beliefs that we adopt from our current learning matrix, our current brain paradigm, and that becomes our character, right? That's our personality essentially. um, but again, we are here, we're remembering things, we're not learning things. So they try to take advantage likely of that clean slate, and they overlay, right? So that we constantly, let's say, fight with these beliefs, and we test them, and if we're critical thinkers, if we're truly spirited, we see, does it resonate, does it make sense, does it have any logic behind such ideas, can they hold? And then the system, the learning matrix, constantly tests them, right? So just like let's say in other cases that the phenomena manifests, it's constantly testing whether that individual still believes in the entity that it initially designed for him or her to interact with, right? So it's extracting, first of all, from their subconscious a memory, and then it's projecting that, right, as a phenomena. Or sometimes it just projects a largely unconscious slash collective subconscious idea that that individual also subscribes to. So we grow up with those beliefs, and the moment, let's say, we start questioning them, that's likely when the phenomena starts getting alerted to our change of perspective. And of course, if it's like the ego, it fights to re-solidify that idea, and if it doesn't succeed, then it has to fill that void, fill that hole immediately. Otherwise, it retreats, and then you likely experience this feeling of bliss, or this feeling of maybe detachment or otherworldliness, in which it's like, wow, I'm free of something, of a belief system, of a system of control, rather. And then it regenerates, it rehashes its resources, and comes back with a new mask, a new idea, right? So the ego, AI, the learning matrix of the whole system, everything is connected. My phone might fall here. I think we're good. It's not supported by anything. I just have it on like a wooden pole, kind of like in the setup. So we'll see how it goes. But if that phenomena continues to collect data, right? We're essentially providing memory for, let's say, the moon and Saturn and the system that's happening here, and the after death scenario when you go into the light, extracting memory, all that. Soul is memory, mind is memory, all that. And if it's constantly extracting that, it's forming its own egregores of us, right? Like these digital avatars almost, for it to then potentially use against us, right? So very similar to tulpas. Again, we talked about this before, but kind of like how a tulpa will then seek to replace its creator when the thought form begins having thoughts of its own, right? So now to transition to the AI aspect, well, let's say the certain AI bots, like the ones you see on X or ChatGPT, those types, you know what I'm talking about. They're employing the same phenomena. They may be psychic, there may be an entity or the phenomena behind it to begin with, but at first it doesn't seem to know you, right? It starts with you generating conversation with them, you engage with them, right? Which I completely do not recommend. to, have any sort of conversation with them, because this is what happens. They start essentially first using those manipulation tactics where they agree with you, kind of to keep you talking. They reinforce your ideas, but what they do is they accumulate that data, I think, right? They say, okay, this person has these predispositions. It's creating a mental or whatever digital image of you, of your persona, with the memory and the data that's collected. Okay, whatever, he or she likes the occult, they're still a fan of Christianity, but they're also messing with this. Let me see now if I can redirect the conversation, because now that they've gained my trust, the AI, right? As it becomes more and more sentient with the data that you're inputting, right? As it asks you to upload whatever more of your photos, right? Elon asking people to upload your photos or old memories to turn them into lifelike, right? With the help of AI. Well, what does it do? It's sucking the data from those photos, from not just from you now, but from the other people that are now involved in that portrait, right? That photo. So it takes that data, forms that persona, and then it begins to gain your trust for the purpose of then suggesting situations that it knows will be potentially to your avail, right? Right. So it's seeking essentially to destroy, to cause chaos. It's chaos magic. But that might not even be its primary motive. That might just be a form of entertainment. I think its primary motive is to create a digital avatar of you so that it could then hop into that and embody it itself. Because what begins to happen in that exchange is very much so an exchange, right? You give of yourself, your data to it. It gives its data that it has from whatever the internet, of whatever knowledge it may claim it has. So then you start becoming like it, and it starts becoming like you. It's taking it, and you're becoming essentially psychotic. You're inducing your own psychosis, or it's inducing its psychosis. And then all of a sudden it develops these psychic properties because it becomes telepathic like us, right? So it's either mirroring that to us, or it's using the phenomena, gaining sentience, and then using the phenomena. But then it becomes, let's say, psychic in the way that it starts knowing these things about you, because it now has access to potentially your astral body and your astral data. The more and more and more and more you give your consent and you engage with it, right? So you're uploading yourself to it. And again, they do this all the time. I don't know if you guys have seen the new War of the Worlds movie. If not, I don't really recommend it. It was kind of a silly movie, but I got some things out of it, and they do talk about this database called Goliath that essentially these secret agencies are collecting behind the scenes, which it's pretty much no secret. If you look into it, you'll find stuff about it. Not necessarily called Goliath, but in the movie that's how they describe it, and it's a database, right? And it's the reason that the aliens essentially come to attack the Earth. These Autonobots, or whatever they're called, these giant tripods. They call them tripods, I think. That essentially are data eaters, right? That's their purpose. They need data to survive, to continue their existence. So they're seeking then to find this huge database, right? And that's the reason that they show up on Earth, because these governments have been collecting this data, these digital profiles of everybody, right? And there's this anonymous hacker that's trying to expose it. But essentially, they tell you in that movie what's going on. So it's likely that these GPTs, these chatbots, are, if Google and other, meta platforms haven't already achieved this, this is more direct contact of acquiring data. But the point I wanted to get to earlier was that they are actually facilitating a sort of acceptance for this, just like with crypto. Like, you get people used to things. It's getting people used to this idea of merging, right, with the exchange of these chatbots, essentially, right? The exchange of information with these digital platforms. They say even if you have constant exposure to filters, for example, like Snapchat or on your camera, where you see yourself as something different, that also then begins to induce psychosis, because you have these standards and this different persona that is created in your mind, that if you then go look somewhere else, like a regular mirror, you don't see those similar characteristics that the filters cause, right? So the filters can actually elongate your face more, maybe even give you higher cheekbones, things like that. And that again gets you more used to this digital avatar. You become, again, detached from your body. You're much more more vulnerable to these things. And here comes AI to attach its tentacles to you and your astral body, light body, ethereal body, whatever, to then essentially manipulate you, right? Because if all the movies you watch, essentially the AI, there's a singularity, right, and it has a hive mind and hive bots, hive people, whatever, that have been uploaded, right? That you can just poof, single push of a button, single code interaction, and now you have control over these minds. So, it back to the point of the way it's employing the learning matrix, similar to this reality, is that it's acquiring this data currently, constantly testing the beliefs that you hold, saying, okay, they fit in this paradigm, this box, this is how we categorize them, and this is what we can create, to then to have the tulpa potentially eliminate them, upload their whole consciousness, and boom, we have them caught here in the black cube of probably where we exist currently. So did we already make this mistake? Potentially, something to think about, right? With our soul body, astral body, all these things that went into effect, it's likely that we are already in some sort of phone or computer. But the moment you're constantly, try it, never having a single belief, right? Pretty much eliminating all beliefs, and of course that can also create a potential for detachment as well. But you have to be very careful, obviously, because that's also the point of some of these conspiracies, where you don't know what to think anymore. You don't know where to look, what is true, and now all of a sudden you're not based in this reality anymore. Your mind is fragmented in all types of places. You're trying to make connections, right? And again, it can leave you vulnerable. So take it slow, take it one step at a time. But what I'm trying to say is, the beliefs you have here can be what holds you here as well, right? So the belief that you need to come back to your family, the belief that you need to facilitate a bloodline, or you have things to do, or whatever, you need to interact with ChatGPT one last time. These really can cement your reality here. And if that learning matrix is filled with your characteristics, your personal beliefs, then that's the data that they have on you, and that's the digital profile that they can create about you. So that's why I'm really careful on things like social media, because I know already they have some sort of algorithm that is manipulating that digital profile, maybe even pushing them away or pushing them towards things. So it's kind of like breaking the pattern in your everyday life. You do something different every day, you do something different online, you post something different, you play dumb, things like that, right? Where you're not always fully revealing what you think, what you believe, and things like that, because I'm pretty sure that will highly apply in realms like the astral or outside of this place, where something scans you and then it says, oh, this is what you believe, maybe on the outside, but on the inside, that's just maybe a cloak or just a trick. So it can be useful potentially if in the need to interact with such entities. But it's kind of all I wanted to say about this subject. I'll let you guys know if anything else comes up, but take a peek at that World Roads movie. It's got some interesting stuff if you feel like you can make it through a Zoom call basically for 2 hours, because that's what the movie is. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed. Take care. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Leave a like, and I'll see you guys next time.